Ah, New Jersey. The state with a reputation so dirty it might as well be covered in tar and bad decisions. Some people talk about New York, but New Jersey is where the real stories happen. The kind you don't find in travel brochures. It's gritty, it's raw, and it doesn't care if you make it or break it. You either swim or drown. John knew this all too well. Born in the roughest parts of Jersey, his family wasn't exactly wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. His dad was a mechanic who worked late nights, and his mom worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. But the real kicker? They didn't even have enough for a second-hand coat come winter. John's first taste of life wasn't a warm bed and cozy blankets. It was the freezing wind biting at his face, walking the streets in shoes that were barely holding together. Despite everything, John had one thing: his brother, Ben. Ben was the light in the world that seemed to get darker by the day. Ben was the kind of guy who still believed in fairy tales, even if they didn't exist in the world around him. And in a place like this, believing in anything was a damn act of rebellion. While John spent his days hustling through a long line of low-paying jobs, flipping burgers, scrubbing toilets, working on construction sites, Ben kept his head up. He still laughed, still found joy in the simplest things. And John, though the world was against him, kept fighting for his brother's innocence, even as the world tried to drag him down.
But as life goes, that joy didn't last long. It didn't take much for Ben to fall into the wrong crowd. He'd always been the type to want to fit in, to find his place in the world. And the wrong people saw that weakness. They preyed on him. They whispered sweet promises of escape, of thrills, of belonging. And soon enough, Ben was caught up in a web of drugs, the kind that don't care who you are or where you're from. They just want you to keep coming back. At first, it was just a little weed here and there. Then came the pills. And before John knew it, his brother was deeper than even he realized. Ben started disappearing for days at a time, hanging out with people John didn't trust, doing things he couldn't understand. Soon, Ben was selling, and not just to strangers. No, he was selling to his own friends, people who he once laughed with in the backyard, sharing stories about dreams they had before life kicked them in the teeth. John tried everything. He begged, pleaded, and even threatened the guys who would wrap their fingers around his brother's neck. These were the type of people you don't talk to unless you have no choice. The kind that make you wonder if selling your soul for $1 is really worth it. One night, after getting absolutely nowhere, John decided to approach the one person in town who had the kind of power to get anything done. The guy everyone feared, the boss. The man had fingers in every pie, from the city's criminal underground to its political structure. The boss was the sort of guy who didn't do favors, but if you had the right price or the right desperation, he might listen. And listen he did, in a way that made John wish he hadn't said anything at all. "You're wasting your time," the boss told him, flicking ash from his cigar into an old glass jar. "Your brother's already too far gone. You can't pull him back." John had expected the cold indifference, but still, it stung. Ben was slipping further and further into the abyss, and no one, not even the most powerful man in Jersey, was willing to help.
But John wasn't about to give up. No, he wasn't like the people who let life break them. So, in one final desperate move, he packed up his brother and headed for the Philippines. New Jersey was dead to them now. Maybe, just maybe, a change of scenery would be the reset they both needed. John figured, if nothing else, the Philippines had an air of freshness to it, something Jersey never did. Here, they wouldn't be haunted by the same streets, the same broken promises. For the first few months, it was hard. John worked every kind of job that would pay him. Manual labor, factory work, restaurant gigs, anything to keep food on the table and pay the rent. The heat in the Philippines was stifling, the air thick and humid, and the work was brutal. But it was honest work, and that's all John ever wanted. Slowly, though, things started to change.
John started to move up. He wasn't just a guy scraping by anymore. He became a department manager at one of the local companies, climbing the corporate ladder with hard work and sheer will. For the first time, John felt like he was in control of his life. His brother, though, wasn't so lucky.
Ben, always the easy target, soon found himself back in the clutches of addiction. Despite all the hope and new opportunities, the demon of drugs was relentless. One day, he found himself caught in a drug bust, arrested with a bag of the usual stuff. In a moment of panic, Ben ran. It happened so fast. John was just a few steps behind, trying to catch up, trying to help. But the police, in their haste, mistook John for Ben. They saw a man running, and in the chaos, they did what they thought they had to do. A bullet rang out. John collapsed, blood spilling onto the ground. He had no idea what happened after that, except that everything went dark.
2 weeks later, John woke up in a hospital room, his head throbbing, his body aching. The first thing he saw when his blurry vision cleared was her, the nurse who was taking care of him. She wasn't just doing her job. She was genuinely caring for him, as though he wasn't just another patient to her, another face in the crowd of suffering. Her name was Maya, and she was stunning. Not just in looks, but in the way she spoke, the way she moved. She was calm, measured, and kind in a world that didn't often offer much of that. And when she looked at John, it wasn't with pity or some fake sympathy. She saw him. Over the next few weeks, Maya came to his apartment to check on him, to monitor his progress, bringing food and keeping him company. John found himself looking forward to those visits. Slowly, their connection grew. They began to share stories, laughter, and late-night conversations. It wasn't long before they started to see each other as more than just a patient and a nurse. And then one evening, while walking along the beach in the cool breeze, John saw him, Ben. He was standing there, sobbing like a child, his face crumpled with regret and guilt. "I'm sorry, John. I've messed up. I messed up so badly. Please forgive me," Ben cried. John, his heart heavy, didn't say anything for a moment. He just stood there, looking at his brother, the brother who had caused so much pain and heartbreak. And then he did something he hadn't done in years. He forgave him.
From that day on, things began to change. Ben finally took control of his life. The road wasn't easy. Hell, it was rocky as hell. But for the first time, Ben worked on himself. The drugs were gone, and the chains that had held him down for so long were finally broken. And John, he built a life with Maya. Together, they created something beautiful, something real. They married, started a family, and John found a sense of peace that he never thought he would. His brother, finally clean, was part of that family. The pain of the past didn't disappear, and never could, but it didn't have to define their futures. And as they walked along that same beach where it all changed, John couldn't help but feel, for the first time in his life, that maybe, just maybe, he had finally found his way home. And there